only to this reporter, former football great, Hall of Famer Fran, who has been scoring more than a few financial touchdowns of his own as an entrepreneur extraordinaire. And he sees trouble ahead. Forget 10 days out. Fran is looking 10 months out and 10 years out. Fran, very good to have you, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Neil. Good to be with you.
What do you make of this trend? You say it's an unending one and an on and on one. Explain.
Well, raising taxes and cutting the expenses is not going to solve the problem. The problem is just too big, Neil. If we cut taxes and cut spending, that won't solve the problem. The signs are there. We're headed for an economic or financial tsunami. And the one thing that we need to do that nobody talks about, we've got a broken tax system. We've got a broken revenue system. It's too complicated. We've got too many loopholes. We have to simplify the tax system and generate real income for the government from an efficient tax system. And we haven't even addressed that. And without addressing that, the problem will continue to get insurmountable.
All right, but you're saying tax cuts alone aren't going to do it. Spending cuts alone aren't going to do it. And that puts you opposite a lot of Republicans who've been screaming for both.
Well, I'd like to have them both, but the problem is too big even for that. If we don't address this tax system that is absolutely broken with too many loopholes, too few people paying taxes, if we don't, with some kind of a fair tax, a bad tax, to be able to really get predictable revenue and income into this government. In business, we have to be sure we have a predictable revenue stream to survive. Yes, we need to cut expenses. We need to stop spending at the level we're spending. Right now, you're talking about the taxes. Many smart economists are saying that if we have a chance to balance the budget, we have to take the top two tax brackets, which Obama has said that's who he's going to increase the taxes on, from 33 and 35% to 90% tax rate and 85% for the second highest level. That's just not sustainable. That's
all right,
even
and by the way,
you
reach your point. This is a direction
expenses.
that's been happening on the Republicans and Democrats toward bigger government. Those who say they don't want it, but invariably sign on to see more of it. But when you mention like a value-added tax, I noticed that 11 prominent countries that have such a tax, it is in addition to an income tax. And if we go this way in the United States, is it fair to say it won't be swapping out a system, just adding to it?
Well, no. There are many very, very smart people on both sides of the aisle, financial people who are Democrat, Republican, who have worked on this issue for many years, understanding that we need to change the tax. I'm not saying that is the answer. It's got to be a simpler, fairer tax system and more efficient that gives us a more predictable revenue stream. If you don't fix that, the rest of it doesn't matter.
All right, but even in these countries that have such taxes, their revenue stream is not predictable. That's what I'm saying. So a lot of times it depends. No, I know what you're saying. But a lot of times the economic cycle is such that you can't depend on it. One thing you can depend on, though, in all of these countries I was talking about, and in our country specifically, is that governments do get bigger. And the cost to pay for them invariably has to get bigger, right?
Well, bigger government has never worked anywhere in the world. And it's not going to work for this country. We're into more bigger government. As you know, in Washington, D.C., it's boom city.
Right.
They can't, their hotels are filled, the restaurants are full, they cannot fill all the jobs, and now we're going to have 1,600 more IRA agents to help oversee the health care that was just passed. And doesn't that give you a good, warm feeling?
Well, just your coming by gives me a good, warm feeling. But, Fran, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much. One of the greatest football players of all time.
Thank you, Neil.
And a pretty savvy financial read. Fran in Atlanta, Georgia, where, by the way, we're going to be next week for a big tax protest rally. Meanwhile,